This legislation on equal pay is about justice, in a word. We could almost say that equal pay equals justice. There's probably no simpler way to say it. It's really, when you consider what this means, a very simple concept, that if a woman doing the same job, the same work, does all of that in the same way that a man does and is hired by a company, she should be paid the same wage. It seems so simple, so elementary, but unfortunately we've had more than one generation now where that has not been the case. Depending on what study or what year you're talking about, women make on average 76 cents for every dollar a man makes, or 77 cents. It's always been in that band of similar numbers. And I think for a lot of families, it's disturbing. How do we tell? How do I tell? In my case, having 4 daughters, how do I tell them just do well in school and work hard as they have, and get good grades, and once you're on a career path, you're going to be fairly compensated for your work because of all that work that you did and the good work that you do for an employer. And then for them to come to me, I hope this never happens, but for them to come to me 10 years from now or 20 years from now and say, you know what you told me isn't true. I did well in school, I worked hard, I got hired and worked hard in the job that I had, and I'm getting paid 76 cents for the $1 that a man makes doing the same work in the same place at the same time. It makes no sense. So really, in essence, it's about whether or not we're going to be true to our words and true to the values of this country. And it's about giving people a fair shot on something as fundamental as the wages they're paid for their labor. To use an expression from the Bible, laboring in the vineyards, laboring at a job and being paid in a fair manner. There was a report not too long ago, not this year, but a few years ago, which looked at kind of a state-by-state weekly pay comparison. In that report, Pennsylvania women made, on average, $694 a week. Men in Pennsylvania were paid $849 a week, an 18.3% differential. That's not the end of the story. It gets worse for women 50 years and older. If you just do that age category. For women 50 years and older in Pennsylvania at that time, just a few years ago, the differential was $732 for women workers and $984 for men. Almost $250 a week above that age category. And for all women at that time, about $150 of difference. Each and every week. You can just imagine what that does to someone's sense of achievement or sense of dignity when they know they're doing the same work every day and they're being underpaid over and over again. Every week, every month, every year, and in some case, decade after decade after decade. So when we say this is a matter of justice, in some ways that might be an understatement. So we have a chance to remedy that, and it's very simple. You're either going to take steps to remedy that, or you're going to reject the steps that will take to bring a measure of justice, a fair shot for women. They're not asking for anything that a man wouldn't ask for or demand. They're just asking for basic fairness, to be treated the same for the same work. I won't go into all the elements of the legislation, but some of them involve what happens in the event of a conflict, where if a woman is discriminated against based upon her pay and she brings an action in a court, what will be the rules that govern that case? Well, I think we should do everything possible to make sure that if an employer has a defense, that they've got to earn that defense, especially in this kind of litigation. One part of the legislation prohibits retaliation for employee complaints. In other words, if a woman is inquiring about or discussing or disclosing the wages of her wages or some other employee, she's not retaliated against. It's hard to believe we have to legislate and make that the subject of debate. You would think that if a woman is working in a company for years and she's aggrieved and has a claim to make and is asking, and what is the foundation of her claim is her questions, her inquiries, her comparisons between and among different sets of data, what she makes, what a man that does the same work, what he's been doing or what he's been paid. Those basic questions should never, ever be the subject of retaliation by an employer, but too often they are. So we have to legislate, we have to specifically prohibit that kind of conduct by an employer. As maddening as that is, as frustrating as that is, you would think that employers would want to make it right, that they want to make sure that if a man is paid $1 for his work, that a woman doing the same work is paid the same amount. She shouldn't have to ask. She shouldn't have to be worried about any kind of reprisal or retaliation or punishment. But the state of the law today is such that that retaliation goes without sanction in the United States of America. Really, really insulting to women and insulting to families. So there's lots that we can do, but the most important thing we can do is to get a favorable vote on the Paycheck Fairness Bill, which is before us. And I hope we get a bipartisan vote. This shouldn't be the subject of support of just one party. This should be bipartisan. The people that are asking for this help, that have been asking for it for decades, aren't one party. They happen to represent a half or more of the American people when women have asked for that. And if you don't think it's for whatever reason, if someone doesn't think it's the right thing to do for today, well, do it for future generations. Do it for your own daughters, your own granddaughters, maybe your great-granddaughters. But to forego the opportunity to do something about this at long last. President Kennedy signed the original legislation. A lot of people in the United States weren't even born then. And here we are still debating, still striving to get a basic measure of justice in place. So I do believe that equal pay equals justice.